So I guess I occupy a very dangerous position here between you all and lunch right now, and we're a bit late on the schedule, but I'll try to go through this as quickly as I can. I wear a couple of hats here today. One of them is for my law firm, as you see there. Another is for the Swedish American Chamber of Commerce. As Bengt Erik had noted, I'm the chairman for the Swedish American Chamber of Commerce in Minnesota, and I'm a member of the U.S. National Board. We have Mark Podemski here as well, who is a member of the U.S. National Board and board for the STAC Chicago. And Birgitte, if you'll raise your hand. She is with our Stockholm office, which is centrally located in Stockholm, and ready to help Swedish companies that are working to make some connections into the U.S. so to do business there. So you see a few facts there. It's pretty impressive. Small country like Sweden is the second largest foreign American Chamber of Commerce in the United States. British American would be the largest. So we do good things and try to do some very good things for Sweden and Swedish companies. Another hat that I'm wearing is I happen to be an advisor, an independent, apolitical advisor to a U.S. congressman from Minnesota who represents Minneapolis and the surrounding area. And I have a background in public policy as well, which you'll see. And so one of the things that really interests me here is the policy differences between Sweden / Europe and the United States. And so we'll see here that one of the biggest things for Swedish companies, European companies going into the U.S. is that you cannot rely on a stable policy across the U.S. or even from state to state or region to region, and that makes it a little tough, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. So these are the two things that I hope to accomplish here in short time before we launch. I mentioned Congressman Allison. He's, as I said, he represents the 5th District in Minneapolis, and I've been advising him on Nordic and foreign affairs issues for about 3 years now. Another person that I look to for my knowledge and kind of a feel of Sweden is a former member of Parliament, Håkan Hansson, who is from Malmö, and he worked for Torgny and was in Parliament at the time that Sweden had adopted the price of carbon. And so he and I have been talking about these things for a very long time. Just a quick plug for my former school out in New York, but at that school I had the opportunity to study under some of the best professors in the U.S. In environmental policy and other public policy. So what exists in the United States now? There are different types of laws and different types of incentives that exist, and they exist regionally at the state level, locally even, and then of course there are federal things, but usually the big question is what does not exist at the federal level. Cap and trade, there are 3 main regions that have developed cap and trade policies. Bill here is familiar with one of them, which I will mention, and if you have questions about that, you may ask him as well. Bill, if you could raise your hand so people know. Thanks. So the first one is the MGGRA. Minnesota is involved in that one. The status of it is it's not traded at this point, so it's basically a potential cap and trade scheme. Another one is the Western Climate Initiative, and that has California, Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, Oregon, Washington, and Montana. And they are getting geared up in order to start trading in the near future. Let's see, we see that they, in July of 2010, they released a roadmap to inform their partner jurisdictions about how they're going to implement the cap and trade program. And it's to begin in January of 2012, and it should, as they state, cover 2/3 of the total emissions for the WCI jurisdictions. And if fully implemented in 2015, the program would cover nearly 90% of the greenhouse gas emissions for the western states involved in it. They recently, in September 20th, they had a bidders conference for people who were interested in the cluster proposals there. The next one is the one that Bill is familiar with, I believe, and that is the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, made up of New England, states in New England and some of the Mid-Atlantic states, and they've been trading since September of 2008, and it covers 188 million tons of carbon emissions, and as they stated, approximately 90% of the allowances will be auctioned on a quarterly basis and have been auctioned since September 2008. They ran into one of the problems relating to cap and trade. The formula that they use for setting the cap, it was used based on a 4-year-old projection of emissions growth in 2009, and the actual emissions ended up being much lower, and so there was a discrepancy in the initial cap that was more than 5% above what the industry was then emitting. So that's one of the problems with cap and trade. I'm sure there are people here that know quite a lot about this. These are some of a little bit of a comparison between carbon pricing and cap and trade. Some call it carbon taxing. In the U.S., no matter who you are, if you ever go to the United States, please do not ever use the word tax related to this. It's a hot button word and a hot button issue, and it will go nowhere if it's described as a tax. But in any case, carbon pricing, it adds some predictability to the market. It's quicker because basically it's a policy that's set either at the state or the federal level. It's easy to understand because it covers the spectrum of the economy as opposed to cap and trade, which generally is applied to power generation plants. There's less ability to manipulate it, as a number of speakers have said. Some of it's the coal industry, the oil industry, etc., the automobile industry have been able to manipulate policy, not only in the United States but in other places, to keep these types of laws from being established. Offers the broadest coverage because basically it's putting a price on carbon. So as we'll see in one of the proposals here, it's possible it can cover everything across all sectors. And public money, there's also a better chance of being able to send the money actually back to the public. If that's the goal of the government, because by setting the price on carbon, it then evens the playing field for these small and medium-sized businesses that are doing low-carbon businesses. That would even it, and if you don't believe that the government should have that money, you still have the opportunity to return it to the people. But in any case, you set a level playing field between carbon using technologies and carbon neutral technologies. After the last election, the U.S. House changed from Democrat to Republican. One of the Democrats in the House had previously offered a piece of legislation that was a carbon tax, carbon price, and as you can read there, it defines what the taxable carbon substance is, and then it set a price on that, and its goal was to assist industries that are negative, that would be negatively affected by the act in order to probably get buy-in from the coal industry, etc., to finance research in clean energy technologies, and to provide carbon tax rebates to individual taxpayers. They also express an international sense there that Congress in the United States should establish binding agreements with other countries. This person was had a Swedish background, and we'll see here on the next one, or the coming one, another Swedish background has quite a different view. This is a new piece of legislation, and you can see by its title, the Energy Tax Prevention Act of 2011. You can see that this person is trying to prevent any type of tax being placed on energy. And it would amend the Clean Air Act to prohibit the Environmental Protection Agency from making any regulations relating to greenhouse gas emissions. I'm sure that sounds our European friends here, but that is what we're looking at right now as far as the types of policies that are out there. Another one, House Resolution 750. This one is called, ironically, in my view, Defending America's Affordable Energy and Jobs Act. And it does that by prohibiting the president or any federal agency from creating any regulations for providing control of emissions of greenhouse gases. So it's tough going up there right now. This person, as I mentioned, is a Swedish background, Timothy Wahlberg, from Michigan. And you notice when you look at a lot of these policies, you will find that the Michigan Congress people really support the oil industry and the auto industry, and still don't realize that they brought Detroit down only a few years ago because of the second policy.
You can turn him back. No, I just said you can send him back.
These are a couple of points out of the proposed legislation. You can see immediately there that some of this applies to standards for automobiles and for gas use and type of vehicles, obviously coming from somebody from Michigan. It would also nullify any rule made by the EPA before the date on the enactment to regulate greenhouse gases. It would prohibit the president or agency heads from examining or making findings or conclusions about making policy, guidance, or regulations to address the impacts of greenhouse gases on climate change. That's pretty all-encompassing. And then this one I think is interesting because I think this would actually affect some of the cap and trade that I talked about before. It says that any provision of a state implementation plan that designates greenhouse gases as pollutants and that are subject to regulation or otherwise authorizing or requiring limitations on emissions would be unlawful under the new policy. So it reaches even into state law to make, by my reading of this in any case, even some of the cap and trade perhaps illegal. So conclusions on that, legislative, legal, and regulatory supports are going to be difficult to enact and vulnerable once enacted. They're going to continue to hinder clean technologies in coming into the United States. And even so, there are still a lot of opportunities in the United States for European companies. The thing is you need to look at the parts of the U.S. That are going to be the best places to bring your product in, and the best places to develop your market. And so you need to take into account the policy that's there, not just the environment or the market for the number of potential purchasers. And the reason for me bringing this here and is that I'm trying to be a part of educating people on both sides of the aisle, both Republicans and Democrats, about what some of the realities of these things are, what's happened in Sweden as a result of implementing a price on carbon. The slide that back there shows that emissions have gone down 10%, while the gross domestic product has gone up 43% over the same period of time. So American politicians and policymakers need to understand those things, but they need to understand them in the right ways. Let's see, how am I doing for time? I know we're over.
Another 2 minutes.
Another 2 minutes? Okay. So in that case, then I'm not going to get far through the other things. But if you have questions about establishing a business in the U.S., there are a lot of questions there, and please just come and talk to me. And see just some of the many things, agent-distributor relationships that you can think of, ways to avoid becoming a tax entity in the United States. And those are the many legal issues that you can run into. So intellectual property issues, due diligence issues, immigration issues, all very much right from the beginning things you need to think about and go forward with your counsel. So with that, I thank you for your time. And if you have any questions, please do talk to me while I'm here during the day.
This is only 36 days.
I'm going to give